Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours 24. Keone will be joining us back in a minute, and we will continue. Welcome wherever you are. As we know, our mission is to activate creative leaders globally to tackle on society's biggest challenges through design, Web3 technology, and community. And that's what we're doing here at the Systm. And really, it's to empower creatives globally, whether you're a designer, whether you're a developer, strategy, whether you're a business, to play a key role in the transformation of our planet. What can we do? What can we do, basically, to change the world? This is co-creation. It's brought to you by the community. Thank you to Pat, who's not here on this Friday. We've been working really hard this week. But she has helped set this all up and getting us restarted for season 1 every other week. And I'll talk about the schedule in a minute. Brought to you by CORE, Brand Discovery Foundations. We forget that this is all about, it has been about CORE from the beginning. We've been expanding what CORE is all about for everyone. COREismagic.com. If you're watching this in the replay, like and subscribe and comment. Here's the agenda for today. We're going to drop in. We're going to spend 15 minutes doing that. Everybody's welcome to drop in either in the chat or in person. And we're just going to have core Q&A. The theme today is aligning teams. Aligning teams. How do you get your team aligned? And you might not have a team. And actually, it'd be interesting by a show of hands who actually works by themselves or who actually works with a team. So if you want to put in the chat, just put by myself or put I work in a team. That would be good to know. That's something that's interesting. Team, yeah, you want to work in a team. Mark, interesting. Yeah, you work in a team. Marlene, cousin Marlene, you work in a team. How big is your team, cousin Marlene? Are you leading the team or is it a team that's led by somebody else? I'm curious. So, some housekeeping. This is season 1 for 2022. Here's our schedule. Every other week. Right now it's March 4th. So we're here. It's office hours. Next week is design therapy. So we're rotating through the month of March. Every other week, we have either design therapy or office hours, and that's the schedule. So next week, design therapy. Let's do our drop-in. And Keone, this is actually not the drop-in. The drop-in. What was the drop-in that you posted in Keone? In
the drive. So what is the thing that you completed this week for a client?
That you're proud of? Yeah. Do you want to model it?
For sure. Yeah. What is one thing that I have completed for like a client this week that I'm proud of? Completed a bank persona exercise, and I facilitated their marketing team, specifically their Twitter marketing team. And the team had never gone through an experience like that, a facilitated session like that. Very excited. And it really like a marketing team with ideas around how to collaborate and work together.
Beautiful.
And I am complete. And I choose Bjorn.
Bjorn, one thing, who you are, where you're calling from, and one thing you completed this week you're proud of. What do you do? Maybe he's not available.
You are muted, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Bjorn. I'm from Bellingham, Washington. I'm a graphic designer / brand strategist / logo designer. And I haven't really completed anything for a client this week. I've been struggling to find clients. Seems like the market is just trash and nobody has money for this type of stuff, at least for a person of my talents. So yeah, it's been a struggle to find clients and keep income consistent, but trying not to go back and, you know, work at some shit job like digging a ditch or McDonald's or something. So I'm holding on to the faith and keeping hope alive, but yeah, it's been hard. I choose,
Thank you, Bjorn.
Roberto.
Oh, thank you, Bjorn. This week, I am working with a client that have a restaurant. Oh, my camera is doing something funny, but well, I working with a client that have a restaurant, and this week we finish an automatization because normally the clients need like 3 times, go to the restaurant 3 times to feel comfortable with that restaurant. So we make an automatization that the first time you buy, you get a 10%, the second you get a 5%, and the third time you get like a dessert for free. So that way we get free stuff and the clients repeat in the restaurant. And now it's working very fine. And we increase the sale of the restaurant. So that's nice. And I choose Patricia.
Thanks, Roberto. Can I go after the next one? I just need to set up a bit.
Do it. Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Go, Mark.
Hey everyone, my name is Mark. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I didn't do anything for a client, but this week we started forming a team and we're creating a DAO for volleyball. And I'm working with some top YouTube creators in the industry, and I'm really excited about that. So I want to get on this call because I need to I'm leading this team and I need to work on those team leadership skills. So that's why I'm here.
So you're leading a team and you need to rock it.
Yeah, I need to rock. I need to delegate tasks well. We need to have good alignment. We all need to make sure we're on the same page. And everyone else on the team is way more qualified than me in other areas. But I want to make sure I'm doing a good job of actually using core principles and, knocking it out of the park pretty much.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And Pat, you can go now if you're ready, or we can pick someone else. Okay, I choose Sergio then.
Thank you, brother. Okay, Sergio from Argentina. I don't have clients right now. I stopped looking for clients in December because I want to experiment a bit more this year. But I did something cool this week. On Wednesday, I facilitated for Bankless Consulting DAO 20 team. Same as Keone, they haven't had an experience like that, and they were super, wow, what is this? So yeah, it's super fun to see a lot of senior people surprised because they achieved consensus in one meeting. So I don't know, it always makes me happy. So that's something that I did that I'm very proud of this week. And I'm going to choose Christina. Long time no see. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. And yeah, so for me, it's been pretty eventful this week. I ran a brand audit this past Monday with an art therapist, and she actually won the brand audit through an event that I did a couple of months ago. And we finally connected, and I ran an audit for her because she just started her business 6 months in. So I kind of helped her, get the wheels turning and get her thinking and helping her understand what the, branding is all about and what the importance is. So I really shot some insight into, her life and her brand itself. So she was super thankful. And now we're looking into hopefully running a focus group at the end of March so I can help her out and some of her friends in her network, because unfortunately she couldn't afford my branding package that I just relaunched this past month. But I want to find a way in terms of how I can help her out in stage 1 of her business. So very eventful week. I'm really tired, but I'm still chugging along. So yeah, I'm complete.
I can go next. Now I'm ready. Sorry.
Yeah,
about
Patricia,
that.
your
I was a
turn.
bit loopy. Patricia Maliksi from Manila, Philippines. I'm a brand strategist and flow facilitator. One thing that I'm really excited about this week is we actually had a discovery call with a potential client, and we're submitting a proposal for a soft opening of a hotel here in the Philippines. So it's really nice that it's really picking up right now, because before we almost pitched for that one, but then they decided to not go with it because of the pandemic, and now they're like looking into like soft launching it. And yeah, we're collaborating with a marketing consultant. We're planning to hire like a local team there, so we're consulting from Manila, but they're from a different area. So yeah, remote, and I'm excited because it's a beach and hopefully it opens soon and we'll be able to go there. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. Who hasn't gone yet? Brian and Mary. Whoever wants to go first.
Mary, ladies first.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Go ahead. I'll go last.
Okay. So I'm Brian Jimenez. I'm near Los Angeles, brand strategist and creative director. I also produce a podcast, 2 of them actually. And this week, I was able to, I've been doing like more kind of e-commerce stuff for a client lately. And I was able to help facilitate a cool deal with them that was able to get them one of their highest selling months in business this last 2 weeks. So that's something that cool that happened. And I will pick Mary.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm Mary. I'm part of the Systm. I'm in the SF Bay Area. It's great to see you all. I'm really glad to be here today. I actually don't want to point out something that I personally have done. Something that I'm really proud of people in our space who I actually met at Denver East when I was there recently. A bunch of women and influencers in the blockchain space started the Ukraine DAO, which is really unbelievable. Like, it brings tears to my eyes. I'm just gonna like drop the link in the chat here. Yeah, they've raised so much money, and you know, just watching the power of this new technology and how communities can come together so fast and, you know, support things that are so important. Yeah, and exactly what they've done is insane. So I'm just really excited about that and been following it closely. And yeah, so me too, Mark. Yeah, I joined as well. And yeah, I'll pass it to Jose. I think he's the last one to go. Oh, we have some new people that are also there. So I just noticed. Do you want to go, Jose, or do you want to pick someone else? Oh, yeah, Moro's there, and Iwana. Do you, either of you?
You're on mute, Iwana. And there's also Cliff is here, and Jersey,
Mauro, yeah.
Jersey, and Mauro, and Chris Poor. Just do it.
I haven't personally, like Mary said, and other people delivered something yet this week, but I'm proud of my team. Alina has done some amazing illustration for a storytelling tool that we're making, and Mircha has been, you know, ahead of time with MDC, and I'm working on some illustration. Oh, and I'm Ioana. I'm from Romania, and I'm part of Cold Cat team, and we're brand architects, and we are designers and illustrators. And I'm gonna pick Mauricio.
Well, we can't hear you.
You are not on mute, but your
Yes,
mic
He's
is there.
frozen.
you can do it.
Is he frozen?
No, he's not frozen. His mic
Yeah, he
gets
was frozen.
disconnected.
No.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay, technical issues.
Is he frozen? Is he not frozen? It's a song.
Do you hear
And-
me now?
We can hear you
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Thank you for waiting. What I was saying, Mauricio in Colombia. Those of you who know me know that I've switched. Well, I have an agency, creative agency, but I've started doing business coaching. And this week, like proudest moment, it's not mine really, it's the clients, because it's coaching and why not, and it's gotten really emotional really fast doing this thing. The person was how to put it, there was something they've been struggling with for a while, and it was really nice for them to stop blaming themselves and repeat the cycle and figure out a way of get out of it. And so that was really nice. That was my moment this week. And I picked Mauro.
Thank you, Mauricio. All right. So my name is Mauro. I'm a creative director from Mexico. I'm also part of the Systm and the MDC project. Something this week, I think this week has been really eventful for me. not necessarily in a good way. It's been really, really crazy. But I am really proud to have this much amount of projects and work right now that's been coming in. I know I've had some really rough patches like Bjorn. So I completely understand, man. I know what that's like, but it'll get better. So right now, yeah, I'm working on several projects with an agency. I'm working on MDC and doing consulting and strategy work for a few projects in Tijuana and a museum that's going to be getting built pretty soon. I think I'm just generally really proud of everything I may have been able to accomplish thus far, and the work and the time that it's taken to get here. But there's some good stuff coming up. I know it's gonna get also really great for everybody. So thank you guys. Who's next?
Cliff can go.
Cliff, go ahead.
Chris Power
Yeah,
too, if he wants.
Good to see everyone. This is Cliff from New York, brand strategist, creative consultant, and something is the prompt. What's happening with us this week, or what's good happening this week?
It's one thing that you here. I'll bring it back up. I'll bring the screen back up so that it's easy, and then also bring the music back up. There you go.
So one thing that I completed this week for a client, and the client would be myself. I finally got this case study up on a climate solutions startup that I worked with a few months ago, and I'd kind of, recently I've been doing some freelance art directing for California creative agency, so that kind of threw everything behind for myself. But fortunately, I finally got around to updating my website with the climate solutions case study, and it took like 2 days to kind of bring it all together. But I'm happy to get it up and start to share it with people, and continuously just trying to network and connect and be introduced to new people and see if we can work together and partner. So that's something that was a win for me, and I'm just kind of happy to get it done. It's kind of little things like that. Well, not little, because it's big to get a new case study done and out the door, but it definitely is putting fuel in me to keep making moves and making sure that I'm sharing what I'm doing and creating new opportunities for myself. My name is Cliff, and I'm complete.
Am I the last one?
Yeah, you'll be close to the last.
Close to the last.
But
okay.
yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Chris Poor, and I'm originally from a little town called Pensacola, Florida. And in January, I quit my job that I had for 15 years as a brand strategist and moved out to San Francisco. So quite a change for me. And so right now I am fun employed, but just kind of enjoying figuring out kind of the path for myself past life after agency. And so I think for me, my most proud moment is just taking the time to focus on me and kind of embracing the unknown. I typically like to have structure, so this is quite a new experience for me. So it was nice to meet you all, and I think also I'm really just proud of just being here because this is my first time I've been part of the group on the Facebook group for a while, but this is my first time really kind of engaging with the core team here. So really proud of that. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Man, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Keone, and we have, so let's talk this out. So this is the first core office hours in a while. We haven't done it in a long time, and the format is really asking questions and troubleshooting, things that you have. We have this theme of aligning teams, which I suggested to Pat because it's a big thing. I had dinner. I haven't gone, so I'll go. This week I had dinner with a friend that I worked with at Consensus, who is a workshopper and he's chief evangelist for a development company here in California, actually, but they have offices in New York, I think, and in Israel. But does a lot of, there's the Google Design Sprints book, and there's an O'Reilly Design Sprint book that came out a little bit before the Google one, or before the one that you guys know, the blue one. He actually co-authored the Design Sprint book by O'Reilly. So we've been having these conversations about teams and about optimizing teams. And I had a really good conversation with him on Wednesday. He sent me a bunch of different practices that are super interesting, especially drop-in questions, like a whole 4 pages of drop-in questions. But it's a really big conversation, right? So this has been in my mind, like how to align teams, and I've always thought that I'm really good at it or that I've been good at it, but I'm kind of I'm feeling like I'm not as good as I think I am, or that there's really a lot of challenges in general with teams. So yeah, 4 pages of types of drop-in questions to just build connection between teams. But just looking through a lot of the practices and through a lot of the things that this person shared with me has been super interesting to look at, how to go from vision to mission to values to objectives to the different dynamics of the different teams and how to resolve conflict and how to get, set expectations, et cetera. So that's really a team thing. So I don't know if this is that relevant, but I'll go through the rules, and Keone, then I'll let you kind of guide our Q&A, any questions that people might have. Gestalt protocol is something that is super wonderful, speaking from the I, not giving advice, but having it be, instead of you should do it this way, or hey, here's some methodologies that work, or whatever. It's always, here are a few ways that I have done. So when sharing and when coaching, this is super important, and I want to highlight it for everyone on the health and the well-being of teams. I belong to an organization when I was running my agency called EO Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's a cohort of 10 people that meet just like this every month, once a month, and all the topics were planned. But you would have here's a problem I'm having, and then people couldn't tell you what to do, and they couldn't say, oh, this methodology is great or this process is great, unless you had done it and you can actually present like an example of you having done it. So this is super critical because we can intellectualize and talk about like ideas, concepts, practices, etc. But until you share them or until you practice them, it's kind of like, well, you know, that's great. So speaking from the I, primary, I did it like this. Here's an example. Secondary, I saw so-and-so do it like this. Here's what it looked like. Better yet, introducing, you know, to secondary to that person. I don't know how, but maybe we should ask this person. So that's kind of what Gestalt is about. It's about kind of like coming from experience and from authentic, like, oh, I've done it this way and it totally worked. It's much easier to enroll someone than it is when you're just saying it conceptually. All right, so that's it. And then we kind of go into questions. Keone, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, this is a space that we want for you to feel safe sharing challenges and concerns that you have in running your enterprise, you know, operations, dealing with client, challenges you might be having in creative, business development, all of those things, that entire space. But we also are concerned with being able to provide you with real, valuable, and actionable support in that space. And that means that we need to have something of a qualifier to make sure that what we're delivering is quality feedback from the community. And this is sort of how we just set that standard and that expectation. So yeah, if that's all good with everyone, let's start. Let's just open the floor. Does anybody have a challenge or a question or concern that they might be thinking about that they went through in the last week that they'd like to discuss?
I can kick off if that's okay.
Yeah, hop on in. What's up, Cliff?
So recently dealing with some founders, you know, you're juggling personalities and especially when you're kind of leading, I was leading in the position of helping them solidify their brand positioning and marketing. And an issue that I ran into is one of the founders being conscious that they needed some help, but also at the same time having a hard time letting go of control, and that control kind of stifling the ability for the brand to do what it needs to do to be able to connect with potential audience users. So I think where I ran into trouble was how to bring it up to that co-founder in a way that's empathetic, but also direct, and being like, hey, it seems like you're having trouble being able to let go of control, and it's stopping us from being able to do what we need to do for your brand to help put you on a pathway to success. So I guess my question is, how do you bring that up in conversation in a way that's empathetic, but also direct?
Okay. So if I'm understanding the situation, you are dealing with a client who has a lot of control over a lot of the activities in the organization.
Yeah, and that person has, they were the more dominant personality among the three co-founders, so they kind of naturally fit into that role.
Okay. Does the other three co-founders, are they like vying for control as well? Do they want to step up? Do they feel like they're being pushed out?
Well,
or is it just like one person leading?
So the other two are more, one is just very much an operations person, so they're totally fine like in their operations hole, and the other person is a scientist, and they're kind of fine in their science hole. So it kind of let the person that's more assertive be the one that kind of naturally fills that role, even though the other two are kind of like, well, maybe we need to do something a little different. They don't like to rock the boat, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And for the audience here, I'm just talking about Cliff around the scenario itself and just trying to, you know, fill in the scope around his challenge. If anybody would like to jump in and share, you know, stuff from their experiences or things that they've seen.
Ask clarifying questions. I think that the steps are one, the next 3 minutes, anybody can ask a clarifying question and write notes.
There we go.
And then at the end, instead of giving advice, here are 3 things that I've done in the past and then everybody can do that. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry
Brian.
to interrupt. I had a question
No.
Oh,
for
yeah,
Cliff.
please.
Cliff, do you know what the distribution is in terms of their ownership and stake in the company? Is the person who is predominantly the most vocal the one who has the higher stake in the company?
No, I believe that it's evenly split between the three, the equity in the company.
Interesting. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I had another follow-up question. Do the scientist and the operations person feel like the results thus far are good enough that they don't have to rock the boat, and that's why they kind of relinquish control to the person with the dominant?
No, they're very much vocal about how they think it's not working, because of the space that they're in. Basically, all of them are very hesitant to kind of put themselves out there or put their work out there in a way that where they can be judged. So I think the weird thing is they feel comfortable within the research phase of it, the research and kind of data analyzation phase of it. Anything outside of that, when it comes to positioning and marketing, they're all extremely uncomfortable.
Is it correct to assume that this is like a bit of a technology or not technology, but it's a somewhat, if there's a scientist and it's a dorky business. It's like,
Yes.
technical.
Okay. Yes, they're very much, they're in the climate solution space. They're starting.
Got it.
What they do revolves around the tech space,
The technical term is nerd.
Wonks. Some of them are wonks. Some of them are, wonk is not like a pejorative term. It's just like when somebody's really concerned with the technical aspects of it. Like a political wonk is concerned with the legislature, policy wonk, etc.
A good example of how a project or initiative will be stalled is they're ready to put out explainer content for what they do, but they can't get the scientists to sign off because it's not specific enough. And if she says no, then they don't do it, even if the other two agree that it's good enough. So that's just an example of how things will stall.
What is the title and role of the most dominant partner?
Well, they don't necessarily have a role besides co-founder. And this is the problem. The areas get squishy. Like when we had a type of review session, one of my suggestions was that either you kind of divide into specific roles or you get somebody outside to come and lead. So some of the politics internally don't mess up your ability to get things out, but it's all squishy. One is, a COO, another one is chief science, but these aren't these aren't titles that are attached to them. The only real title attached to each is co-founder.
Got it.
So it's interesting that you mentioned a scientist. Is there a academic component to why the scientist is concerned about information not being potentially accurate? Is there a publishing connection to university, to academia?
Not that I heard while in the engagement. The thing that I heard the most is their fear of being labeled as greenwashing. That's the main fear of the science person, of them all, but even more specifically, the science person.
Labeled by their customers or labeled by others in the industry, or
their peers in the industry.
Look, can you repeat that term again? Did you say greenwashing?
Greenwashing, which basically means that it's kind of like if BP does some type of sustainability initiative for the environment, but their practices actually don't follow up what they say they're doing. So in the industry, that's labeled greenwashing.
Got it.
Pretending to be green.
Yes.
Got it.
And what they do is not greenwashing, but within their sector, if you're labeled a greenwasher, this is the kiss of death.
It's the stigma that'll.
So it ends up having them not doing anything because they're scared that every move is to be labeled.
Or organic.
It illegitimizes the science, and that's the biggest concern, is that they don't want to illegitimize and discredit the work that they're doing. Yeah, that makes sense.
Are they a nonprofit, a for-profit? Are they a consultancy, or do they have like an actual vision or mission?
For profit. They're for-profit.
The for-profit consultancy in the
Well, no, not consultancy. What they are they work within the industry of carbon dioxide removal, CDR. And what they have is a gifting service where you can buy basically a digital gift card from them, which what you pay for that contributes to removing a ton of CO2 out of the air.
Got it.
So it's a carbon offset is what it is?
Not necessarily an offset. They like to say, well, you like to position it more as removal, because they're not necessarily for a ton put out, they're taking a ton away. It's just they're taking a ton away.
Interesting. And a follow-up question too is how did you discover there was this issue among the leadership team? Was it just sidebar conversation, or did it kind of unveil itself through a workshop that you did?
I think it revealed itself through workshop because the dominant personality was the one speaking the most, number one. And then number two is because certain agreements that we would have to do things were, when it was the responsibility of that person to do follow-up, they would not do follow-up. And that, it happened a few times. So where I got stuck was trying to bring that up to the person in an empathetic way. And when I couldn't kind of figure that out, I kind of stalled out.
So a follow-up question to that is ultimately who is the decision maker among the three?
I would say that for 80% of what they do, she is
the scientist.
No, the main dominant person. That's one of the co-founders. Like for intents and purposes, I'll call her the CEO, even though she's technically not.
So do they not have that as a role or as a job, the CEO job or role?
No.
Because that's, this is I don't want to break the stall. We've seen it in recent projects, especially in DAO work, where there's founders, but there's a very dominant person in one particular aspect, and this is also a DAO that is around climate or around environmental things, and then there's very many all very dominant, actually, all very powerful, and it's for me it was difficult to kind of step in and wrangle without having roles and responsibilities done on their end, and we tried many methods to do it, but at the end, it came down to just kind of like allowing for it to pan out however it panned out. And for what is the agreement that you have with them in terms of what you need to accomplish for them? Like, what is it that you're trying to deliver?
So the agreement was to come up with a brand positioning statement and ideas for marketing for their organization. That was agreement. And then, as we got into it, we found that there was so much more that needed to be done. I think that for my part, I might have secretly, unbeknownst to myself, if that makes sense, one motivation that I had was, okay, well, maybe once I get in there, I can help, brand strategy overall, because there were a lot of other problems with the website and delivery of the product and all these things. And then when I was kind of relegated to the position of, marketing, then I kind of, I felt like I wanted to do more, but I couldn't really do more. So I was kind of fooling myself too in a certain way. Yeah, and this is I'll name this. When you're a consultant or when you're dealing with brands and the problem becomes, the dynamics internally, the only thing that I know how to do and that I've been able to do successfully, well, not the only thing, there's many things that I've tried over my long career. One thing is enforcing whatever contract, we or I have with a particular client. Like if you need to deliver some deliverables and you have an obstacle because they can't make a decision, you have to tell them, it's like, look, I can't deliver what I'm supposed to deliver unless you guys make this decision, and tell them all equally, right? Do you think you can deliver what they requested at the bare bones at the contract level without you wanting to do more? Well, yes, in the sense that it's basically been done. So what I'm telling you now is just kind of post-mortem, trying to understand within post-mortem type thing. How to do it in the future. Yeah. So how did you end up doing it? So I was able to give them what we set out when it came to the initial brand positioning, brand statement, marketing plan. The things that I wasn't able to deliver, like we had an agreement about trying to really dig into SEO and also website audit, but because they had pushed back the launch of their brand like 5 or 6 times, by the time my engagement was up, there, those things I mentioned, we just couldn't get to it. There was no time. And
there's no time in the budget. Did you get paid?
I did. And and that's because I heard one of your talks before, Jose, when you were saying like, you do as much as you can, and if they don't follow up with your suggestions, there's nothing you can do about it. You just say, thank you for partnering with me, and you keep it moving.
Get a good referral. Like, was this valuable to you? Yeah, it's hard to like disidentify sometimes with the needs of your clients, especially people like me and you that are very empathetic and really want to help. But there's sometimes you just can't do it. I mean, let's come up now that we've done clarifying questions. What are ways that people would deal with this? So let's solve this, or not solve. Let's give ideas for how to solve this. I'll open the floor up and mute myself.
Yeah, well, if I could jump in, I was going to say that I think that's what's happening, because it happens with me as well, where your engagement is done and you see that they're essentially continuing to shoot themselves in the foot, and you're there saying, I have the solution, don't shoot yourself in the foot. But then again, your engagement is done, right? So what do? Do you just walk away and let them continue to hurt themselves, or do you do something about it, right? And it's a good thing. That's a good empathetic quality that you have. But like Jose was mentioning, that there is an importance in being able to understand where the contract ends, right? Just for the purposes of getting the deliverables out and getting paid and doing your part. And then if more is needed, one thing that I've done, so not to break Gestalt, but this is something that I've done myself, is I directly.
That's correct. Actually, you were breaking Gestalt before you started saying something that I've done. You're backward. It's okay. Do it, Brian. Do it.
Thank you for letting me know. So what I've done before is to just plainly, empathetically let them know that, that there's, let's go back to the goals, right? Are these 3 shared goals? Are these the goals that are shared among the 3? Yes. Okay. Well, the current path that you're on is not accomplishing these goals, which means there needs to be a change. Let's make a new contract where I can do X, Y, Z, so that we can get closer to accomplishing these goals. And it required me in a way to kind of step in almost as a 4th founder partner, to be able to in a way take the reins. I've done it in different ways. I'll tell you the most uncomfortable one, but it worked. Where I had one person who was a very, very strong personality taking over the reins of the projects, and in a sense derailing them by including all his subjective ideas and kind of ruining the performance. And no one wanted to stand up to him, essentially. And so one of the founders called me specifically to stand up to him in a group meeting of the founders. And so what I did, the first thing I did was I started yelling. I'm just kidding. No, don't do that. The first thing that I did was, we just started talking about the goals. And as soon as we were aligned with the goals, then we started to say, okay, look, you're suggesting to do this. Let's play that out logically, and will your idea accomplish the goals? And everyone agreed that they wouldn't. And I go, well, look, this is a different idea. Will this get you closer to your goals? Yes. And so then what needs to be done, right? There's A doesn't work, B that works, right? We need to choose B. Now, at that point, coming in as a almost as a 4th partner, you're not taking over, but in a sense, you have to kind of hold the reins if that's really what you want to do. So what I did in that case was I said, okay, if you want to accomplish this, then this is what we're going to do. So I didn't worry so much about being self-serving because obviously these are engagements that I would be getting, right? Things that I would be making money from, being able to add these things. But I made it clear to them that my interest wasn't helping them. So I didn't have to really think too much about, is this self-serving? Whether they think so or not, I really can't control that.
I mean, why would it have been self-serving for you? It sounds like, let me recap what you did. You said, here's this is what do we need to solve? So you pointed out objectively what the objective was. And then you pointed out some solutions, A, B, let's pretend there's a whiteboard. You put, here's solution A. We all agree on the problem. Here's solution A, here's solution B. And then you talk it out and people were like, yeah, that's not going to work. This one's going to work. And it might have not been the solution. Basically, you proved that the solution that the person was recommending wasn't the right solution, right? Is that what you did?
Exactly. Yeah. So
great. But how would that be self-serving?
No, it could be interpreted, especially by the person who was getting kind of.
By the person, because look, ideas are subjective. The truth is that it's really, there is right and wrong. Until you try it, you don't know. And then there's obviously ethics, but putting that aside, let's assume all the ideas are ethical or the solutions are ethical. At the end, is like what's right and what's wrong. It's gonna, if it's wrong, you wasted time and money, and potentially there's pain to the business or failure, right? So the reason people want to make the right decision is so that there's less pain and less cost and less wasted time and energy, right?
Correct. And that's why you talk it out. You talk it out so that you're not just saying, this is my idea, whether you agree that it will work or not. No, you actually discuss whether it's a good idea for everybody. And if everyone says, well, yeah, that does bring you closer, then they can't later on and go say, well, it was your idea. No, we all agreed that this would bring us closer to the goal, or that this would accomplish the goal.
You were a neutral facilitator. So one book that I read that helps and points out how that, it's called Getting to Yes, which maybe I should revisit. And it really was it's pointing out the objective and then how to get to the objective versus like people try to negotiate on position, and that's rarely works.
That's Cialdini or?
Getting to Yes, I'll tell you. Position-based negotiation is how most people negotiate. Like, this is my position, this is what's right, and this is what's wrong. And that never works because the other person might not agree with your position. But what are both people's objectives, and separating the objective from the position? Getting to Yes. It's a brilliant book. It's an old book. It was written in the 70s, I think. Negotiating agreement without giving in, like where you all win. It's how to set up win-win. Here it is in the Facebooks. But having the confidence to step into a situation, it's really amazing, and that's really important. But anybody else, Keone, anybody want to marry? Anybody want to bring any other, tips, tools, tricks, experiences that they've had?
For me, I had a lot of challenges with that early in my career because I was dealing with a lot of founder-led startups and team-led startups. For me, one of the things that I really emphasized early on was that I was a strategy-driven strategist. I'm going to always put the customer at the front of any kind of conversation point, any kind of question, any kind of concern. So anytime I was dealing with issues between leadership, my question was always, how does this benefit the customer? Because just us sitting here and debating this, we're wasting time and we're losing customers literally right now because you guys can't come together. And I took on this project because I was under the understanding that I was going to lead this rebrand or this product development initiative or this service development because we were going to try to create the best experiences for our customers. And if you guys are not going to prioritize them, then I can't prioritize this project because that's how I work. And that was, for me, that was like the biggest impetus, one of the biggest values behind strategy and being strategically driven because at no point was I coming to you and saying, this is my feeling or this is like my experience. We're basing it on the data around our customers, the live experiences, the things that we know, right? These aren't concerns or questions. And for me, always putting that as the principle behind all of the initiatives that we have, or the direction, or the things that we have to do, or the decisions that we have to make, was key. And for like maybe like my first 3 or 4 years of consulting, this was my go-to phrase. What I'm hearing is subjective. How do we get to objective? And those are my thoughts. Chris, jump in, brother.
Yeah, Cliff, thanks for sharing. I know that it's a tough seat to be in. In my experience, I've worked a lot with physician groups and public money, and especially in spaces where you're dealing with a lot of disagreement, across a lot of different perspectives and people. And I think that what you've highlighted is that when the stakes are high, like when the reputation is tied to high stakes, and in this case, the sustainability piece, right, the greenwashing piece. And I've worked with some organizations that was a big thing. One of the things that worked for the clients that I've worked with is at the beginning of the process, if you're dealing especially with founders and people who have in my case, I was dealing with a board of directors. You have to say, there has to be somebody ultimately who makes the decision. Who is that person? And make sure that everybody says amen and hallelujah. You will open up a forum for people to share their perspectives, but there is still that one person that ultimately has to make that decision, and they have to bow down to that. And so I think having that agreement up front across everybody is going to be really, really important. But again, I think as other people have mentioned, stating that as your role as a facilitator and as a strategist is to say that I'm going to bring all the perspectives together and present to you what I feel is the best thinking for the direction of the branding. But again, it all falls onto that one decision maker. So identifying who that person is first. A lot of the times, the other ways that I've managed strong personalities is in the workshop design itself. I've done workshops where instead of I'm not sure how big your workshop was, if it was just those 3 individuals. Typically, when I've done workshops in the past, it's an even number, 4, 6, 8, 10. And the reason for that is because my first exercise is to actually split people up into pairs. And what that does is that prevents that one person from dominating the entire conversation. And when you bring them closer together and have them do one-on-ones, it's a different conversation that happens. It's a different power and a different energy that happens. And once they have their one-on-one exercises, they come back and then they share what they heard from their partners. So that way, it really evens the playing field. Everybody gets a voice. They don't feel as though they don't feel as though their voice is being dominated by somebody else's perspectives. And then again, you as that facilitator can then say, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm hearing, reflecting back. Does that sound right? Does that sound good? And then again, taking that information, putting your best thinking to creating that strategy at the end of the day and providing it back to that CEO or that president of the board or whoever that leader is, and saying, here's what your team said, here's what my recommendations are. Do you want to move forward or not?
That's a really good strategy. I like that. I never thought of the kind of, for lack of a better phrase, divide and conquer type of approach.
If you think about it, Cliff, sometimes that's what the person with the dominant attitude is doing. Is they're essentially dividing and conquering, and they're using their outspokenness and personality to have their vote count for 2. And so by being able to do something like, which is exactly what I did, like putting myself in as the 4th founder or whatever. Now we're the team, like Chris was saying, right? Now it's him and me. It's not just him dominating. And I had to, in that case, play the part of the person who was kind of matching and mirroring his personality too. So I was nice and I was empathetic, but I was also very firm. It had to be the tone that was necessary for him to be able to respect. You can't always do that with everybody. You kind of have to be able to read personalities and see. You have to kind of tread carefully because it could make people upset. But I usually, when I have first interactions with people, especially like that, I like to kind of test the boundaries to kind of know where they're at. So then I know where I need to be at. That's helped me to do that, but that's a great example that Chris gave, is to be able to kind of split them into teams so that they don't have all the control, per se.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I want to mention, before I close off there, it's ultimately your job, like you identified, is to deliver some value, and that's the branding that you're doing, the repositioning that you're doing. Your job is not to fix their internal issues, right? And that's just, unfortunately, that's just what it is. You're not a organizational psychologist. So at some point, if you, in your workshops, and this, again, this is just my perspective, when I've done workshops and I've identified, well, there could be a potential landmine here, like immediately after the workshop, I will pull aside whoever I need to pull aside on my client team and say, hey, I noticed that there could be some potential tensions internally here that could cause some roadblocks for this process. Like, what do you suggest we do? Like, how should we handle this? Because I think that if you let it linger, then it becomes a little bit, it becomes kind of, what's the phrase of that, kind of a runaway train, right? So you really, like, at least for me, I've gone back and said, okay, we need to figure this out. We need to come up with a solution. If we need to pause.
Phrase that you used again? That was really good. I've noticed that there are certain intentions or something.
A runaway train?
Oh no, before you said that, you said like when you wanted to address kind of the elephant in the room, you said you would take the person aside and then you would ask them, hey, I noticed that there were some, what was that phrase that you used?
I think it's, yeah, I think it's just picking up, like if there's tension, then saying that there's tension. If there is disagreement, saying that there's disagreement. But I think just picking up on the feeling and saying, hey, I'm noticing there was some interesting, feeling in the room today, and I'm concerned. I just want to make sure that this won't cause any issues for our timeline, for our process, because ultimately I'm here to deliver on that. So, and I just bring it to a conversation with, again, whoever your leader is. And it could just be bringing the entire leadership together and saying, I'm feeling this, guys. Okay, this could be an issue. How do we resolve this? And having them be part of the solution, figuring out what that's going to be, like what that process is going to be.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
That was good. I don't have a contribution. I just wanted to say that was good.
Thank you.
This is not legal advice.
Yeah, and I was trying to be careful. When I said you, I didn't mean you specifically, just ubiquitously. Sorry.
No, I'm just giving the disclaimer that lawyers always have to give. We're just talking. This is not legal advice.
Really good job, guys. Is there any other? How do you feel, Cliff? Do you feel like that really has given you a lot, or do you want to dig a little deeper?
No, I think that's exactly what I needed to hear. I think it'll help me moving forward to not wait. I think that was another thing that kind of myself shooting myself in the foot was waiting, thinking somehow that it could kind of resolve itself instead of noticing and acting on whatever the issue was and just pulling the person to the side, because I'm trying to move from it's an ongoing journey to go from people pleasing to being able to make sure I respect my own boundaries and make sure that I'm doing what's best for the client and the organization overall.
Yeah, it is. That is a tough journey. Yeah, and as you get more advanced and as you get bigger and bigger engagements, or like you're acting almost as a coach, right? But I like what everyone has said here. I don't know if it was Brian that said it or how it was said, but the idea that your job is really to the engagement, not to the you're not there to solve the problems of the organization. I think Chris said that. You're there to like just deliver on what you're contracted to do.
Your job is not to fix their internal issues, which I think was great to hear, because at some point I found myself feeling like part of the job was trying to fix the internal dynamic, but that's, like he said, you're not some type of personality organizer, or
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So,
exactly.
and the reason I said that is because the agency I worked at was a change management firm, and we went in and we had to fix a lot of those issues. But that's not what I'm hearing from this group here. Like, you're not a change management person. You weren't being hired to do that. And I think just drawing the line, just yourself personally, obviously, but also with your client to say, this is not part of my scope.
Yeah. Now, if they feel like you are able to do that, and that you can come in and make a change happen, well, then you can negotiate a new contract and say, well, I'm going to come in now as CMO of the company and handle that plus the marketing and the branding stuff. But that's a different conversation that you would have to have.
Yeah, I'll highlight two things just real quick, and then maybe we have some other questions. But what you just said there, in terms of the coming in as the CMO or as whatever it is, or Brian, you said it better. Like when you're asked to come in as a fourth partner in the case scenario of having a 3-partner situation, point out the options and you vote, right? That you have a vote, so that now you're breaking a tie, or you're breaking the dominance of the dominating person. And then, Chris, it's interesting that you worked at a change management firm. I think something in my career or in general that I've done, not right or wrong, but like done it because it's good when you're working with a startup and you're able to kind of come in and weigh in and be the tiebreaker, or tell partners, like founders, especially between CTOs and CEOs, like, this is, I do it through core. I do it through facilitated sessions. I do it through behind the scenes, talking to the, CEO first and saying like, look, you want alignment, or do you want to like dominate? Let's hear what the whole team has to say, make them feel included, and like just coach the CEO, because they're paying the bills. I usually will default to being their ally, which is not good or bad. But that's been my thing. But I do agree. I think at some point you got to make a distinction between what it is that you do as a service. If you're there to deliver some tangible deliverables, design or otherwise, you need to get those things removed, but only in so much as what you need to do to get that delivered, not in terms of the change management part of it. Though that's fun. It's fun and it's hard work, but somebody told me this at ETH Denver, super wizard, great dinner. Like, he basically said, he was there with his partner, life partner, not just business. Well, they're not business partners, but they advise. The life partner advises him. He has 3 companies, and he is, also a coach and kind of transformational person. And he said, it wasn't until he pointed out his partner came in and just cleaned up. He said, I always thought that I could transform people, he said, I was always arrogant enough to think that I could change people. But it wasn't until I realized that I can't change people, that I can only, change myself. And then his partner came in and just got rid of a lot of people in his organization, and cleaned up and simplified his operations and his life, that he gave up on that, on trying to change people. So change management does change processes and does change, brings in new ways of kind of working, and does make recommendations on team removals, and team changes and role changes. But that's a highly paid, very, very specific skill that Chris sounds like he's working. Anyway, I'm done. I'm complete. Let's get some other questions. Let's get one more. We're 12:15. We got 15 minutes, or should we just wrap it with this one and upload? That was good, and just do an upload. Keone?
Yeah, Jam's going. Yeah, this upload. This was a really awesome session, you guys. Kind of like our first inaugural office hours. Chris, man, so much wisdom, brother. Thank you so much for joining and sharing. Appreciate that. Cliff, really powerful question. Really great way to kick it off, right? The challenge of entrepreneurship and dealing with difficult client interactions. What consultant, what creative hasn't dealt with that? So thank you for sharing and the courage to bring that to the stage. So we're closing down now, so let's end with uploads. And our uploads are generally, Jose, you're muted.
I was just bringing up the slide for you.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, so today's upload is, what is one thing that you got out of today that you can use? I'm really fascinated by the concept of partnering up individuals in a facilitation. I think that's super, super dope. And I would love to try that as a mechanic, to really bring parity, into those kinds of conversations. And that's something that I'm definitely taking away from today's convo. Thank you for that, Chris. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass it to Roberto.
Oh man, you don't give me time to think. One thing you got out today that you can use tomorrow. I think that the how to deal with this situation. I think I never been in a situation like that, but it's good to know what to do. So thank you very much. And I'm going to pass it to Mauricio.
You had to choose the one person that looked the most puzzled. I'm like, you just figuring things out. I'd say also as Roberto, actually, although I cannot use it tomorrow, it was interesting to hear. I don't think like this conflicts change much, really, no matter what the situation or size might be. It's just the context and the perception we get. But like all I heard today is, at the end, people with needs and trying to communicate those and all agree on a solution that will move things forward. So that was super interesting to hear that, but in different contexts that normally I would be kind of maybe afraid of, right? To be in a situation like that. And I choose Patricia.
Today I learned about detaching from certain at the point of engagement with a client, especially with internal decisions that they need to sort out. And I really love the one Chris shared about dividing and conquering. So I'll make use of that in the future whenever I face that. So that's it. I'm complete. Who hasn't gone yet? Ioana?
Thank you, Patricia. It was the very last thing that Jose said, because I keep looking at and going back to Marshall Rosenberg and what Mauricio and I are talking about, that if you want to see change, you have to change yourself, not try and change other people. So basically, I love the idea that you're just trying to get alignment and to meet the needs. That's it. And I choose Brian.
I like what Chris mentioned too about the dividing the teams. I noticed that I kind of do that subconsciously in a way. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the concept of ontological design, but that's something that I think about, right? Is to design spaces, and the spaces like spatially give you feedback and design you back. But that's kind of how I see these situations when it comes to having partnerships. That's something I'm going to explore, I think, more consciously when doing like facilitative sessions. I tend to do that normally, but I think I need to try to apply that more in those roles as part of the actual workshop. So I thought that was something that I could take from this as well. I choose Christina.
Thanks, Brian. So I think for me, what Chris was talking about, which was the divide and conquer, it kind of rang a bell because I'm going to focus groups at the end of this month. So I think I can leverage that in some way. So thank you for that, Chris. Serial.
Thank you, Christina. What I got out of today was validation. I remember I had a similar situation to what Cliff is going through right now. I had a couple of clients. They were an actual couple. They were married, and they run a big company, like 150 employees. And in the meetings, they actually fight between each other, like couple fighting, not business fighting. So the way I handled it was very similar. I just said, hey, look, you need, a business consultant, but you also need a couple therapists, and I cannot fulfill that part of the scope. So I got a lot of validation because, Chris, you said that same thing with a bit more of grace, I have to admit. But yeah, a lot of validation. And I'm going to choose, let's see who hasn't gone yet.
Choose Pat, because she's laughing a
Chris.
lot.
Yeah, you.
I was hoping to go last. One I appreciate is just having the conversation with y'all and being able to share some of the experience that I have in a way that could be meaningful for you all and relevant to you all. So I took away just being happy about having a forum to share that experience with you all. So thank you all. I choose Mary.
Thanks, Chris. That's so awesome because I'm just going to ride along on what you just said. What I got out of today is that this community and being able to have a space for these conversations is incredibly valuable to each of us and especially to me. And I appreciate everyone being here and Cliff for the great discussion leading into that. And so thank you. Yeah, community. Who hasn't gone? Do you want to just raise your hand since okay, Bjorn, go ahead.
Bjorn, you're on
Unmute yourself.
Unmuted. Am I unmuted?
There you go.
All right, cool. So it just kind of reinforced three things for me to keep the whole experience customer centric and always bring the conversation back to who is using the product and how much the internal disagreement is affecting the end user. I hate that word because it sounds like everybody's on drugs or something. But the end person who's interacting with the product or service, and to revise the scope if there's disagreements, and try to bring the scope down to something that's more manageable or bare bones if you have to. And then just changing the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change, to quote a great wise man. So that's all I got. I am complete. I choose.
Is there anyone else?
Someone who hasn't gone yet. Cliff.
Take us home, Cliff.
I just wanted to show my appreciation and thanks for helping me work through this. I think this is what I've been missing weekly, these type of talks with peers and professionals within brand strategy, design, co-creating. So I think you guys have given me a bit of a template to work with when it comes to my next engagement. If these type of issues come up, well, I should say, I guess it's if and when, at some point in some engagement in the future, this will come up again. So I feel a bit more prepared for going ahead and being able to address this. And, I guess also for my part, letting go of my own need for control, to do the best I can, and kind of in a certain sense, letting the chips fall where they may, but also, having a toolkit to use again to address these situations when they pop up. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Keone.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Alrighty, guys. It's 12:26. We've been here for about an hour now. Thank you guys all for joining us. This is going to happen every other week. We're kicking this off. We're excited to be able to support the community. And it's an awesome way just to kind of wind down at the end of the week. So
let's get some sharing back on the Instagrams. We haven't been, it's funny because people used to think, oh my God, there's so many things happening. You guys are doing that. Because we had the weekly shout outs on Instagram. And since we've been away for 3 months, it all seems very quiet. Not that it's about the noise, but Go ahead, Keone, sorry.
Yeah, you guys connect with us on Instagram. We'll maybe by next week we'll have some touts. But yeah, really excited just to kind of get caught up and reconnect with the community and to kind of reconnect in this kind of conversation. So if you're catching this on a rebroadcast on YouTube, we invite you to follow up with us, to like and share. And let's talk really quickly about our 2022 season 1. As you can see clearly, next week what we have is design therapy. So design therapy is where we talk about all the creative, motivational challenges behind the endeavors of being a professional creative.
Cliff, what would be a good topic? Let's start sourcing that for now. Well, what do people really want to talk about other than
what would you guys like to talk
the
about?
war in Ukraine, Putin? What's the difference between office hours and design therapy?
What is the difference? So office hours is strictly like client-facing operational stuff. It's how we get through the minutia of the actual project and deliverable. Design therapy is everything that happens behind that, right? So it could be personal challenges, motivational challenges, creative blocks that we're dealing with, developing empathy, personal development, understanding your story, preparing yourself to have the right mindsets and the appropriate psychology and the wherewithal to be sustainable in this space in a healthy way. So yeah, that's design therapy. And then I'm sure I can boil that down to something a little bit more tighter, but sorry, y'all, I'm rambling. It's Friday. So thank you guys. We're gonna bid you guys adieu. Have an incredible weekend. We'll see you guys next Friday. And thank you for the new attendees, for the old OGs, for the abuelitos.
Invite one person next week to come with you. Let's expand this, guys. Let's grow beyond, the faithful. Let's invite more people.
What is a weekend? Oh man, tell me about it. I feel like I do more work on the weekends than the week. Beer. Ooh. Yeah.
I'm going to watch the Batman tomorrow. So if you don't want any spoilers, please hurry and go check it out in the movies.
Indeed. Alrighty, y'all. Just a reminder that you guys are stronger than you know. Your creativity is limited only by your imagination. And through community, you can create anything. Take care, y'all. Peace.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
I was about to ask, should I do it?
Oh,
do it, Mauricio.
Bye.
Later, y'all.